he produced for 1.5 years a server who works with Ajax and some stuff like that. And now he wants to earn money because he invested 1.5 years. So you say everybody can copy this because...
Well, everyone can copy this.
Yeah, of course. But what is your attitude? Do you think they should copy it, or that's what's my question is?
Well, we can't decide what people does copy, and we don't. I mean, it's only the anti-piracy side that believes in filters and that stuff. I understand what you mean. We are not the ones who are trying to say it's wrong to earn money or like we hate profits. That's not our approach. I mean, we like copying, and and we think that if someone wants to say that some copying is wrong and that it should be stopped, then it's up to them to declare how it should be stopped and how. I mean, we are tired of this fixating on the moral side in very general terms and want to push the question around and say, okay, if you don't like the copying, what do you want to do against it, basically?
So your attitude is copy everything, you can do it, so do it.
My attitude is copy me.
I fully agree in what you're saying right there, but where's the conciliatory tone? I mean, my issue is that somebody's going to film a panel of you, or somebody's going to film a panel of 5 teenagers sitting on stage saying they won't pay for anything, but still you look at their phone bill and they're paying 45 euros a month for crappy ringtones, yeah, which are low sampled bits. And why are they paying this? Because it's difficult to get it into the phone. I'm just afraid that this not wanting really to talk ends up in more DRM, ends up in a worse situation than we are today, ends up with the telcos not just doing the same kind of stuff that they're doing within the UK, that you cannot share if it's beyond our network. How do you fit into that?
I mean, personally, I find it totally interesting to talk about how to transform the cultural economies and so on, but I don't want to start that discussion in the end of copyright, because then you got to in some way accept copyrights in universally claim and imagine that, like, today copyright is a wage for artists, and it's not. So if I am to discuss the cultural economics, I want to start in the reality of culture and culture circulation. And I think if we start in copyright, we have already done the most fundamental wrong, which is to regard like the recordings of music or film as the only way to get in money. I mean, I'm a musician myself. I know that, like, most musicians earn money by playing live and making performances. And if we talk about the alternative to copyright, we are already on the totally wrong track, I think. Okay. So I think it's really interesting that copyright can open up that discussion, but that discussion itself must start from a totally different perspective.
But I don't see, well, I think that was probably the element of your talk that I was missing, which is what is the alternative? Because there was the only alternative that you showed, you basically put down. And I just think it's an important thing to remember in these discussions. So this is also as much a comment than it is a question. Thanks.
I just wanted to respond to the person asking the question actually by saying that it seems to me that the internet community and internet users have made quite some efforts and done some serious thinking on alternatives to copyright and fair balance between artist compensation. And it's the music and movie industry and the classic copyright owners, corporations, who have, you know, done things way beyond the law, like spending several hundred million euros a year in Europe lobbying for DRM and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think we are the ones who've been declared war upon, and this is just basically fighting back, and totally within our rights. But maybe not everybody will see it like that, but probably eventually in 200 years people will see it like that. History is on our side probably here.
Yeah, I might want to comment on that. I mean, what we basically have is two fights of the music and the film industry. We have the fight against copying of private people, and we have the big fear of music industry that that their stance will be brought down because of basically amateurs producing the same kind of content. Both can be threatened by DRM, and that's a big problem because on one hand, amateurs could be locked down by DRM if if the consumer can't listen to their music, and the consumer being you and me can't possibly copy music that is somehow protected by DRM either. What I didn't see in your talk is what are you putting against the big threat of DRM, where I can only see a political solution, such as something like an alternative compensation system, and a prohibition of DRM. What is your stance on that? I mean,
well, DRM,
buying nothing is not the right solution because there's too many people still buying the stuff, and TVs break, and then you buy a TV that can't, show non-DRM material, for example.
well, I think our activities against DRM is like highlighting what it is about, kicking to live this discussion and making it visible, like what is this kind of product, who the fuck is want to buy that, and so on. And I mean, the Sony BMG Rootkit scandal was of course wonderful this year. It has been so many possibilities opened by that, and I don't think that will be the last if we just try to keep this up. I don't see that the answer to DRM is like finding alternatives to DRM. But well, that should be like something like circumventionism, I think. But of course, there's different strategies, and I mean, we have never said. I can clarify that too. I mean, we have never said that our approach should be the only approach, or that like we are the party or something. Well, we party in the let's party sense, but not in any other sense. So I mean, of course, there should be several approaches, and I can see that there are really strategical richness in the many approaches.
Hi, I would like to add maybe one level of complexity here. In the global economy, I think that we could see at least two parts. There are insiders and there are outsiders in the global economy. So for example, I'm coming from Croatia, and we are a country in transition, and together with all of the suspicions and doubts about joining European Union, there is no really other solution. So the only Eurosceptics in Croatia are actually right-wing morons. And a couple of years ago, we had completely unregulated anything about the copyright. So one of the preconditions there is protect copyright. So then you can join the European Communion in this case. And in Serbia, it's still really unregulated. So saying just be a pirate where you don't have any system where government is actually corrupted and where government is the biggest pirate you can imagine, saying like just pirate that, it's not really the right approach in my opinion. And I think that things like free software as part of the regulation in a way of having GPL or Creative Commons actually is much better approach for that kind of context. And I can see that if you are inside, that piratization and pirate could be well articulated as a subversive art, could be well articulated as a political action, but I'm not sure that the same approach could be used everywhere. And also, I'm quite sure that at least it can't be said in public. So what I would like to say is that do that in private, in countries in transition, because it has some impact, and do the completely different thing in public. That's kind of hacking.
I mean, for us, it's of course a language game. I mean, the word was already established, and we could just appropriate it and surf on that. And I don't say that that's the word that should be used everywhere in the world, but at the same time, I mean, as there is so much talk about piracy, it can be a point in like appropriating that word and give it new meanings. It's not only infringing copyright, it's like growing your own information infrastructures in general. But then of course, we are not like saying that piracy is more important than free software or something. It's like, it's not that kind of prioritations. And we are taking up all kinds of questions in our reporting and trying to get them together.
I think to answer to you, I think both is important. On one thing, it's important to do it privately, and in one sense, it's very important to make it public. Because I think if we have a mix of strategies, it's very important, for example, to get big content of public broadcast under Creative Commons licenses on the internet. For sure, there you need very different strategies. But if we talk about file sharing and about the use of cultural goods, then it is very important to sort of give people a voice. Many people do it, but if they don't have a voice, the pressure will get stronger and stronger. And if people who do it, who have this praxis, have a voice, which they have like with projects like this, then they are able to fight back, and there will be a balance. Because in copyright law is never the law is important. Always important is what is the balance in praxis. And it's not only about fighting for better laws, it's also fighting for better praxis, and you should keep that in mind, I think, and then bring this together. And that's why you don't only do it in private, but also make it public, what you do and why it is important to do it.
Yes, and you can say that like, without mental rights management, you cannot establish digital rights management, because you got to have the mental rights management to get people to accept it.
And it's the best way against digital rights management is a good mental rights management.
Yeah. Well, can you just take one more thing? We would like to, if someone wants to talk to like us or the other people from our delegation, people from Piratbyn and the Pirate Bay about anything, we said we could meet at like 8 o'clock this evening. I don't know where should we meet? Okay, downstairs. Sure. Oh.
Can I say just one thing before everybody leaves? I work for one of the major Nordic ISPs, and just everybody remember that this copying relies on prevalence of unmetered bandwidth. And if everybody is using a lot of bandwidth, that unmetered bandwidth is probably going to be metered fairly quickly. So everything relies on free bandwidth at a flat fee. And the cost model for the ISP is not that bandwidth is free. So right now we're living in a world where usage for 10% of the users, the high volume users, is basically free, and the rest of the 90% is paying for it. If those 90% start to use the same pattern, this unmetered internet is going away, most likely. And then people are not going to pay to upload content to other people without getting anything back. Just one thing to think about. Thank you.